Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from across the world. Welcome to our special coverage of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest in Nigeria. It's day 3, and we've been getting feeds, getting respondents and reactions from across the country on the day 3 of the ongoing hashtag End Bad Governance protest. Getting to the studio this morning, it wasn't easy, but of course we were able to navigate our way through, assuring the protesters that government will soon respond. And the consensus of opinion is on the fact that Mr. President needs to talk to the youth, needs to speak to them, needs to engage them, and not just talking, but also ensuring that he matches words with action. So at this stage, it's not enough to speak. It's not enough to say government has done this or government is doing this. What is most important is how these policies, programs, initiative of government can quickly trickle down to really affect the politics so that people can begin to feel that government is meeting their needs. If we go on the trajectory of being political in our statements, it certainly will worsen the situation. We'll definitely give you updates on what's happening across the country like we've done in the last couple of days in this special coverage of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest that is taking its toll already in the country. By the time I stepped out this morning, it was as though nothing was going to happen between 6 a.m. till about 9 or thereabout, but the protesters knew exactly when to come out. And one of the conversations that they've been having is that when they find people driving from one location to another, they block them. And they ask them, it's either you're joining the protest or you stay at home. We're not here for ourselves. We don't have any problem against Mr. President. But what we're saying is that the policies that he has put in place is affecting us, is making life unbearable. He needs to do something about those policies to change the status quo, to change the pangs of hunger, to change the pangs of deprivation, and all the social ills that we're seeing in the society. But certainly, whatever Mr. President says today or does today may not necessarily translate to instant change in the status quo, because every policy has a gestation period. There's a time for pronouncement, there's a time for implementation. And in implementing those policies, of course, we just have to wait to see how it impacts and affects the people. In Edo State, the protest has been relatively peaceful, except yesterday where there were a couple of skirmishes here and there. But so far, so good. No life lost, and we hope it stays that way. No property destroyed, and we hope it stays that way. And for other states where there have been destruction of lives and properties, we hope that they can take a cue from Edo State. And then there are also complaints that in some states there are sponsored thugs having a counter protest, all right? And that certainly will create a crisis situation. But we hope that those states where such things are happening, the authorities in charge will do a rethink and address them positively. I'm Sonny Duke Okosun. It's a delight to have you join us on this special coverage of the hashtag End Bad Governance nationwide protest. Okay, on the conversation segment of the program, we'll be having all our panelists join us virtually from the UK, from the US, and from Abuja. We have Ehi Egareva. Ehi Egareva is a former council boss, a local government council chairman, is joining us now from the United States of America. Many thanks for joining these broadcasts. It's a delight to see you once again.
Thank you, Sonny Duke. It's my pleasure to be on your program this morning.
Okay, we also have joining this conversation Mr. Austin Adugame Brimo, who was a former member of the former commissioner in the Police Service Commission, a veteran journalist and broadcaster. Austin, thank you for joining us on this special coverage.
Good morning, dear friends and brothers, everyone at home and everywhere abroad. I want to thank you for this morning and for us to be alive to see what is going on.
We also have joining us from the UK, Chief Matthew David Akwemoha, who is a politician, public affairs commentator, and an entrepreneur. Chief, thank you for joining us on this special coverage.
My distinguished brother, it's a privilege and honor to be here. But just a quick correction, my name is Chief Dr. Daniel Igongo Akwemoka Matthews, not David. Or
That's
you
a
can
full
just call me
sentence.
Chief MD.
That's
Chief
a
MD
that's
is
that's a full sentence. It's okay.
I mean,
It's okay.
it's not my fault. It's
Thank
my
you very
father.
much.
It's my father, so I appreciate it.
All
Chief
right.
MD is better.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay. We will be engaging our panelists who are joining us online, but let's quickly link up with Aigboje Ikhoria, who is our correspondent covering Lagos on this nationwide protest. Aigboje Ikhoria has been updating us, and I'm sure we can have him live. We can have Aigboje Ikhoria now, so we can quickly have a conversation with him. Is Aigboje Ikhoria ready? Okay, Ikwaria, you are live with us on the program. Kindly unmute and let's have your update on what's happening in Lagos. This is day 3 of the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. What's up with Lagos?
At Ojota, the Freedom Park. Behind me, you can see behind me the protesters are right there. Just this morning when we got here, we saw that the security apparatus, the security agents, officers, and men of the Nigerian police fully on ground. Like security personnel have been added to what we had on ground yesterday. Indeed, Sonny, this protest in Lagos has been so peaceful. I want to use this opportunity to give kudos to, so far, the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, who has been doing a very good job by putting the protest in proper check so that it will not be infiltrated by hoodlums and those who may want to take advantage of it to cause mayhem on innocent Lagosians. Of course, the number is reducing.
A technical glitch there with Aigboje Ikhoria. I think the last statement from him was that the number is reducing. The number of protesters reducing, and if that's the case, what's possibly responsible for that? Are they getting weary? So, Ikhoria, please go ahead and conclude the update. Okay, so we hope we'll be able to re-establish connection immediately with Aigboje Ikhoria to conclude the update from Lagos, where from what we've seen there, massive security deployment and of course a reduction in the number of protesters. What could be responsible for this? Are the protesters getting weary, or they are getting convinced that what they've done is enough, and so Mr. President will swing into action and respond to the issue? So, Ikhoria, you're back now. Please go ahead.
Yes, Sonny, like I said, the number of security personnel is increasing. The number of security personnel is increasing. And what we have here is to show that behind me, look at the protesters, that the security apparatus in Lagos State is trying to put in check those that might want to infiltrate the protest. Like we said yesterday, we saw some members, unidentified persons from within this environment coming to say that they don't want the protest anymore. But the police was able to check them and they drove them back, and we have not seen them today. Possibly that is why the police is remobilizing additional men to ensure that nothing happened, that the protest goes on each free. But what we
Okay,
are seeing this morning that is calling our attention.
yes, I was going to ask, you said that the number of protesters are reducing. What could be responsible for that?
Of course, on the very first day of this protest, the protest was peaceful, but some Lagosians at that time, were apprehensive, if to say. They don't really know what would have happened during the protest, and they were all indoors. But as it is right now, normalcy is gradually returning to the streets of Lagos. People are going about their lawful duties, shops are reopening, business organizations are picking up again, the roads are freely opened now, and vehicular movement is free, no traffic. The protesters are just confined to Freedom Square here at Ojota. Now, this is opening way for people to return back to their jobs. It is opening way for people to come out of their homes that were apprehensive before now, not knowing what would have happened in the course of the protest. Now they now know that the protest indeed is a peaceful protest and does not stop them from going about their businesses. So some persons who would have been participating in the protest would have returned back home or remain in their homes or go back to their duty posts or business places.
Okay, Ihore, thank you very much for that beautiful update. We'll keep tabs with you so we can get more on the ongoing nationwide protests, particularly the happenings from Lagos State. Now, let's link up with our panelists who are joining us virtually. Ehi Egareba from the US, Chief Daniel Akwemoka from the UK, and Austin Adogame Brimo from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you again for creating time to be part of this conversation. Let me start off with you, Austin Brimo. This protest has been planned or was planned for a couple of days to end on the 10th of this month. And there were days of warning and intimating the authorities in charge of what is being planned for these 10 days. But we're here now. I think this time around, the conversation should be around what can be done to addressing the demands, both at the level of the federal, state, and local government levels. Let's get your take on this.
I think the message is clear. The youth have made their point. We believe that the government will respond appropriately. What I know of President Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu is that he's a listening person. And he has demonstrated that since he came into governance by reversing some appointments that were that people criticized and comments were raised. He has equally reversed a lot of policies that people raise issues over. So to me, he has demonstrated that he's a man who's not scared to admit errors. And as a result, I believe he's going to do something about the present state of affairs. We're all suffering. There's no doubt that there is nobody who is not feeling the economic impact of some of the policies he has put in place. I'm not a spokesman of the government, but I can assure you that I think he means well. And the pains we are feeling are pains that you normally feel when new policies are initiated. That if only we can endure, I believe that the effect of all this will be palatable. And I agree that palliatives are required. And like you said, these palliatives should be by way of ameliorating some of in fact, there's even no need increasing tariffs for electricity supply, for instance. I think that was a very poor decision, and I did not agree to that. Fuel subsidy can go while we're all suffering, and see how long they will make use of the savings from the subsidy to improve things, improve infrastructure, both the power supply, roads, schools, and medical provisions. While we're waiting for this to be improved, there was no need to increase electricity tariffs or raise taxes of any other form to raise money for government. The savings from the reduction of the removal of the subsidy should have been enough for this government to keep the economy stable and make things happen. I still believe that the government has a chance to do something drastic about the present situation. But nevertheless, in spite of all this, I think the protest has gone far enough to stop. The point has been made. I think the government will act appropriately.
Thank you so much for those views. Let me quickly talk with Chief Akwamoka joining us from the UK. Share with us your assessment of the protest so far, some of the gains and some of the positives and some of the negatives so far, since it started 3 days ago.
Yeah, thank you very much. The positive thing is that Nigerians are waking up, realizing they have some monicum of power or influence to dictate their own life. That is very important. One of the gains so far is to ensure that the media, influenced by the government, cannot manipulate the emotions and the feelings of an average Nigerians, what they're facing, or blackmail them, and as well put them in a corner where they victimize them, where they try to pitch one against the other person. Oh, is the Igbo people instigating this? Oh, is the Hausas, they didn't protest during Buhari for 8 years. Oh, is the Yoruba, so it's Yoruba person, so it's time for us to defend our own. No, poverty knows no religion or tribe. And that's one of the gains. And just for clarity purpose, this has gone beyond just the Nigerian perspective alone. All across the world right now, with Nigerian embassy, I say specifically in UK, today, 12 o'clock, there will be a protest in the front of Nigerian embassy. Hopefully, as soon as I finish this, I'll be heading towards there as well. Some of my friends have gone. They're not protesting against Asiwaju. They're not protesting against the incompetence of the embassy, but they're protesting in general against bad government, against the tribulation and challenges we face as Nigeria. Let me just give a quick summary. Look at what is happening in South Africa to Nigeria. The level of xenophobia we're facing there is legendary. This is South Africa that Nigerians spend billions to rescue during their movement, finance, also educate most of their leaders today. And they are the one turning their hand against us. The level of the xenophobia facing there, not one diplomat from Nigerian quarters stood up or stand up and say something about it. That is one thing. Look at what happened last year when the German chancellor came to Nigeria. He didn't come to Nigeria to discuss trade. This is the same German country that allowed 1 million refugees from the Middle East, who opened their door to the Ukrainian refugees, but came to Nigeria to demand that he wants to deport 20,000 Nigerian plus back to Nigeria, regardless their status. Where is the Nigerian government standing for us to say, no, that is not possible? Let me give you another clue. In UK, for instance, between 2020 and 2023, Nigerian international students paid almost, or if not more than £5 billion in tuition fee to the British government. £5 billion in tuition fee to the British government. Any university, colleges you go today, majority of the people you find there are Nigerians. Guess what? They are only allowed to work for 20 hours a week. How is that sustainable? There's no Nigerian government saying, no, that's a violation of their fundamental right. There's no Nigerian government representing their interests. This is why people are protesting. Go across Africa. The level of discrimination Nigerians are facing across Africa is worse than the racism some of us face in the West. Go to North Africa, how they treat Nigerians. Where is the Nigerian government standing up for us? If you go anywhere as an American or British, anything happen to you, even one single person, the government will rise up and defend them. These same Nigerian politicians travel abroad. Their kids are in abroad. Their family are not even in Nigeria. But the common man, the average person, this riot is, apologies, this rally is necessary. It's not against Tinubu. It's not against Yoruba man. It's not against a Muslim. It's not for Christian. It's not for Igbos. It's not for Hausa or against Hausa person. It's for all Nigerians who are tired of poverty, who are tired of abuse, who are tired of mismanagement, who are tired of political principalities in positions where they're supposed to be of good, but their principality lording over the common man. This is why I support the rally. This is why each and every one of us must. Tinubu is, to be fair, Tinubu is trying to do his best, but he's showing lack of competence. Yes, it's true. It's made some good legislative change, like the local government to be directly independent. Great. The subsidy he removed, and they still pay subsidy to some people. We're not seeing the impact. Terrible. But compare Tinubu and OT in Abia State. We know Abia State is just a state, and it's a small little entity. But compare what OT have successfully done within the same period of time in Abia State. Forget even Abia State, because look at Niger State. It's an APC governor in Niger State. Look at the changes it's making. Yes, it's short time. They came in the same time. It's short time. I was in Abia State before OT came in and after OT came in. 3 months after I got there, there's a major road that cut across. Done, straight. So the effect of governance, if we are not feeling it, then you can't tell me you're doing anything. There are basic things the government can just do today. Simple thing, devolution of state and power. Let each state keep their resources. Each state paid close to about 50-something% on tax. Why? To federal government. Why not reduce that? I say, let's keep their resources, manage their resources, and pay about 10-20% to the federal government contribution. The rest is for the state. Why not basic thing? Or most of these states suffer from bad road. Why not there's no federal road in a state. Why not turn all the federal road back to the state and give them the grant or loan or finances to develop and manage the road? Why say this is federal road?
Pause you there. I'll come back to you in a moment. I'll come back to you. Let me quickly get to talk with Ehi Egareba, who is also joining us from the U.S. On this conversation. He quickly speak on the your assessment, your perspectives on the protests so far. Notable Nigerians are already saying the protests need to end. The message has been sent. Government needs to respond to the issues that have been raised by the protesters. Let's get your take on this.
Well, thank you, Sonny Duke. I have watched very carefully and listened to many of the commentators on this ongoing strike, if you will. And one thing is critical to be, brought to the fore here, even going by the comments of our last speaker. We seem to, the protesters seem to approach this protest as though Nigeria was a unitary state. Nigeria is not a unitary state. We have 3 tiers of government: the federal government, the states, and the local government. And we have numerous bodies and individuals who are both elected and appointed who are responsible for development. For instance, I don't see the protesters calling on their councillors for accountability towards good governance. I don't see the protesters directing their attention at local government chairmen. We have 774 of them across the country. I don't see even the protesters talking about state governors, who are 36 in the country. It seems they appear to be directing all of their energy at the federal government. This is an anomaly. You expect them to speak to all levels of government. And on the part of the federal government, I think there's been an error of miscommunication, because the federal government gave a lot of funds, resources, palliatives to the state government, and the allocation of the state governments and the local governments have all almost doubled over this period of time. But they've not been able to effectively communicate this to the citizens such that they can make demands on their state governors and local government chairmen to also double up on developments. Because if your allocation was, for instance, 20 billion in a month and you are not getting 40 billion, we ought to get double the value for money. But the thing is, most of the state governors have stockpiled this money. Most of the state governors have stockpiled the palliatives, and some are in the process of manipulating the people to believe that the palliatives are coming from them. There's little or no word coming from the states on the palliatives that the federal governments have given to them, on the allocation that has almost doubled over this period of time to cushion the effect of subsidy removal and maybe hiking electricity tariffs. I fought the federal government's distribution of the trailer loads of rice and other palliatives directly to the state governors. We already know that most state governors act as though they are the states are their fiefdoms, and that they hold on to state resources with a vice grip, such that they dictate almost individually what happens in the states. There is no legislation to that effect as to how this distribution will take place. Therefore, they are most likely going to be given to people who are affiliated to their political parties. And now tell me, how many members of the public in every state belongs to any political party to be a direct beneficiary? I thought they should have targeted school children, like distributing these palliatives to primary school children who take them home, secondary school children, especially those in public schools, to take them home to their parents. That way, you'll be taking it down to the smallest villages and to those who are really, going to feel the most impact of the sudden economic change. And Nigeria is not an isolated country. We are in a community of nations across the world. And everyone knows, even here in the United States, even my last speaker that is talking, you can attest to the fact that there's been a serious global inflationary trend, especially from what has been going on between Russia and Ukraine, which has affected, the global supply of grains, which they are responsible for over 30% of grain supplies across the universe. And this has caused a lot of hike in food prices. What I used to buy, if I go to the store for grocery shopping, what I used to spend about $100 for is probably $200 now. And there's been no corresponding wage increase. Every country has learned to manage their own resources in that regard. It's happening in the UK. And one of the reasons that Rishi Sunak was voted out as a result of a hike in prices of commodities across the UK. So it is not limited to Nigeria. And so basically, I want Nigerians to focus on two things. What is going on regarding inflation is not just limited to Nigeria. It's a global situation on the one hand. And secondly, all tiers of government must be held accountable and demands must be made on them such that they too tell the people why what are they doing to address the immediate situation in their states, in their local government. Even the House of Assembly members, they have certain roles to play. What legislation have they put out there to cushion the effect of this suffering? What has the National Assembly done? What has the local councillors, what are they doing? All these people were elected and they are being paid to make sure that there's good governance. So you cannot pin it all on one person, the president of the country. As the president is addressing the nation, the state governors must be addressing their states as to what they are doing to cushion the effect of the situation. The local government chairmen who are also receiving huge funds must be speaking to their local government. They must be addressing every local government across the 774 local government. They cannot act as though they don't have certain level of responsibility towards what is going on. That is my take.
All right. Thank you, Ehie Garba. We'll get back to you in a moment. Let me quickly link up with Chief Akwemoha. Now, we're here with the protest. And when I mean we're here, this is day 3, and the protest is not ceasing, and nobody knows when the protesters intend to, perhaps stop the protest. What do you think are the quick wins on the part of government in terms of ensuring that they are able to meet these demands, speak to the issues, and then assuage the protesters to the point that these protests can be brought to a halt? We've seen states who are, outrightly not involved in this protest. Some states in the southeast, Ekiti State and Benue State and a few others are not in any way involved in this protest. So perhaps the challenges in the country that has led to this protest, those states are not being affected. But beyond that, we've also seen some measure of some level of violence. Some persons have been killed. Some security agents have been killed. The IGP yesterday put all the police formations on red alert. I'd like to get your take on this. But in any case, we also have some states where business and normal life is gradually returning. We heard that from Lagos. In Nasarawa State, we heard that yesterday. Let me see how you can sum all of this together in your views.
First of all, I want to show my greatest remorse to those lives that have been lost, including the protester and the police people or the security people that have lost life. That's not the intention of this rally. And so we should not conflict that with it. It's unfortunate situation that some police officers lost life, some protesters have also lost life. So we should be cognizant of that. And what the government can do for quick win to balance this out. Before that, just a quick thing. My honorable gentleman, he is from America, said some very cogent thing that it makes sense from a political speaking, but this is humanity at hand. We know there's striving all over everywhere in the world. That is a fact. We also know that the councillors, the local government, local government chairman across the nation are also bearing responsibility and stay with the state governors. But we know the local government are not independent or free from the state governor. I personally agree that those protesters should focus on those people as well. But the head dictates the movement and the change. And if the head is dictating properly, everything will cascade properly. So the quick win the government can do right now, the government is actually doing a lot more. To be honest, I'm not an APC or Tinubu person. I'm Labour to the core, obedient to the core, without a doubt. Who is supporting an APC candidate in Edo State and have not joined an APC party or anything? So this is what the government have done so far. They've given billions to state governors, and state governors have not distributed that money appropriately. That is the fault of the government. Lack of imagination and lack of processing. The federal government know how to buy people, but they don't know how to manage. APC are very good at winning, but they don't know how to govern. That is just lack of governance. That's a lack of proper procedure of doing basic things. They just passed a law whereby the state are now declared, the local government are now independent of the control of the state governors, whereby elections are held independently controlled by INEC. If the people are not aware of that, that is the fault of the federal government because they don't know how to govern. That's governance issue. That's process issue. That is big process issue that the government must put in place to address basic things. This government have only been able to be reacting to things rather than being proactive in their approach to solving problem and crisis. You cannot be waiting until there's a crisis before this is the common sense thing we need to do. Look at what happened with Dangote Refinery and NNPC. The government have to allow things to escalate before common sense prevail. Where was the common sense then? Where were the critical thinkers? Where are the skillful people? What the government needs to do, not only just to communicate, is to be more proactive to the demand of the women. Why is it that when the rally was about to start, that was when government have the common sense to say, we're going to stop taxes on importation of food. There's no civilized country tax food. UK, for instance, we're an island. That's why we're out of EU. We still have import. There are farms everywhere in UK. They still import food. There are more sheep in Wales than human beings. There are 3 million people in Wales. There are over 12 million sheep. They still import sheep from Europe. They didn't say because we have more sheep, we're going to ban food from coming from Europe. So It's a common sense thing. The government is showing lack of critical thinkers, lack of common sense people around them who are proactively thinking rather than reactively behaving after effect. This government, to be sincere, if you're a true, sincere Nigerian and you're an honest Nigerian, you will appraise this government for the little things they've done very well, highly well. I'm not an APC person. I've seen a lot of the things this government has done. I'm not a Yoruba person. I'm not even a Christian or a Muslim. So it's none of that. But if we are praising this government, they've done good things that should have transformed the country. But at the same time, the demand is so high that they're also lacking in common sense application of the things they've done, in common sense approach in being proactive. In being proactive with the problem, we need to allow importation of goods, most especially food, from the neighboring country, from Benin, from Niger. We need to allow it without taxation. We need to allow importation of food, rice from China without taxation. Those are the things the government is now agreeing to do because they're not critical, proactive thinker. This government needs Fashola back in the system, who is a critical thinker. to help them as an advisor to proactively think. But this government is doing something better than what the last government did in 8 years. And that is the truth. But still, there's still much to be done that they could do easily with common sense, with critical mind. If we must blame them, we must also acknowledge what they've done. And I'm acknowledging it openly, despite I think Peter Obi should have been the president. I yield.
All right, Chief Kwambaka, thank you very much. INEC has since given us the result of that election, and the man who won according to INEC's report or result is in the saddle, and that's why everyone is calling on him now to live up to the expectations of Nigeria. I mean, the youths, I describe them as the true owners of the land, and on Friday, they came out on Thursday, yeah, they came out in their numbers to show that they are the true owners of the land, and everywhere is quaking, everywhere is shaking. But let me get Austin Brimo to quickly talk about what are the quick things government can focus on to address these issues. The protesters have planned to continue like this for the next 10 days, but in places like Lagos, we've seen that the number of people is reducing, and the security agents are really coming out to ensure that people are adequately engaged, to ensure that the issues are focused on, and then the protest doesn't degenerate. Even while I was driving down today, most of the people I interacted with, they said things like, we are not here to fight anybody. We just want to express ourselves so that government can speak to us, respond to the issues, and we'll all be fine. So what's your take on this, Austin?
Yes, I like I said in my earlier statement, I think the Nigerian youths have made their statement, and I believe that the government has taken the message. I'm sure, I want to use the word sure, that the president would address these issues very, very shortly. I also have the feeling that he may make a national broadcast over these issues. That's my feeling. I don't know. Because I'll pick just one take from my colleague in US, I think Gareva, in his analysis. He mentioned something about communication. That is my area. And that is one area that did not expect the presidency of Tinubu to be weak. There's been very, very, very big lacuna in the area of communicating government information to the people. Some of us up in the communication ladder even got confused when we started hearing issues about presidential yacht. There was no way the Nigerians down the line will know what it meant for a new government to be buying a ship, a luxury ship. Very, very poor communication. When they will start talking about billions to renovate the vice president's house or residence or office, they started talking about budgetary provisions for office of the president's wife. They started talking about big budgetary provisions for certain luxury things for senators, a SUV that is not more than certain, very close to half of the money being peddled. They said, oh, they were buying an SUV of 150 million for each and so on. But the market is open. These things were not actually correct. But who was there for the government?
Please just anchor the point on the poor communication strategy that is manifesting in the issues surrounding this protest on the part of government.
Yes, thank you. Because overall, some of the issues being cited by protesters and some analysts that how can a government that means so well with some of these policies, why is it that they cannot tighten up their own belt? And you're asking Nigerians to bear hunger, to bear the fallout from oil subsidy removal, which by all intent and purpose is a positive development, because I know that the efforts to remove subsidy from our petroleum products has been identified long ago as the major bane and the father and mother of corruption in Nigeria. A lot of unworthy people make billions out of oil. As we speak, if you do search, you find that petroleum products are still cheapest in Nigeria than any other African country. Do your search, you see. It's part of this withdrawal of subsidy and the pains we are going through. But how have we deployed the gains? So I was talking about communication gaps. and which I know this government should be very good at. Because as a player, I know that Buhari's government had rougher times than what we're experiencing now. He was not as sensitive as this present government, and he was not as responsive. But then he had something going well for him. He had people who go out to speak to the people over issues that were coming up. I mean, at that period, someone would have been on air in all the various media outlets to speak about the yacht issue. It is recently we got to know it was something done even long before Asiwaju government. Then the issue of this renovation thing, this humongous money being budgeted and all that. There were no proactive efforts to get to the people, to explain to them why the rationale, if any, if such monies were really correct. Because these are the things I find that it seems to be poisoning the minds of a lot of Nigerians against the government. The protesters keep saying, if the government is spending so much money on projects that does not touch them directly, why are you asking us to continue to bear hunger? Why are you asking us to continue to bear pain? I think there's been a big communication gap as highlighted by Mr. Gareba. And I think this is where I believe this government will look into and do something immediately. That the people need to know. There should be proud explanation to Nigerians why certain things are being done or certain things are going to be done, the effect and the benefits of such things. These are things we have gone over. We have a lot of experts. We need to deploy the right tools to getting government policies down the line. Like he said, my colleague there, local governments, state government. How much are they doing? What are they doing? It's only the negatives that is getting to public domain. Negatives fly, bad news fly faster than good news. But what effort are we making to tell the people the good things that we're doing? How many things have you done that touches the common man in the street? What are you doing about the price of Gary? What are you doing about the prices of pepper and tomatoes? What have we done to ensure that the common man will safe in the farm? If you want to go and farm and even cultivate ordinary groundnut, that you will not be kidnapped. What are we doing? What effort are we making to tell the people, to assure the people? So the government really need to work on its communication apparatus all over, from local government to state government, and the federal is not doing better. And I believe that after this message, the three arms of government will realize that you need to talk to the people. It's not just sitting and making public address. You need to reach the people through channels, through market women, through touts, through associations, through the churches. You need to reach them one-on-one with people. It's not to make state broadcasts or send press releases. We've passed that level. So you can see the is being. Look at the North. Before this protest, the northern states were very silent. It was even appearing as if the northern states were going to boycott this protest. But you can see the trend now. The violence is more in the north. Those who seems to be getting a bit weary are from the southern states. There'll be less violence in state. Imagine Port Harcourt, River State. Imagine Lagos, no recorded deaths or destruction of government properties. Kano was very silent. In fact, to shock you that Katsina that was not making any statement, has recorded death, violence. And look at Gombe, look at Borno State, most of these states, Kaduna. So you can see, and these states were silent because communication was not getting to the people who were suffering and feeling the economic pinch. Who was reaching them? Who was telling them what the government is doing? And I assure you that it was inadequate if there was. And that is where we are. And I believe this government will fix this as fast as possible to ensure that information gets to the people, to ensure that Nigerians know what they are doing and why they are doing so, and to dispel rumors as fast as they come, not to take for granted the passion and feelings of Nigerians when the people in government begin to prepare for their own comfort and their own safety. I think this is my quick fix and the
Austin, thank you very much. Thank you, Austin. We'll come back to you in a moment. Let me go straight to the U.S., where former Ego Council Chairman Ehi Egareva is joining us. The undercurrent for this protest, there are numerous, but just to quickly re-emphasize them, the protesters were aware of some of the things that were in the public space. Austin talked about the reconstruction of the Vice President Lodge, the purchase of $150 billion private jet or presidential jet, and then of course the purchase of the luxury yacht, which is about $50 billion, and several other things that were associated with this government. It wasn't the local government or the state governments who were doing that. These were things associated with the federal government. What came out clearly from the analysis was that the president wasn't prioritizing the needs of Nigerians. The Senate president has said two very provocative things in recent times. And one of them was that just before the protest started, he said something like, while the protesters are on the street, he will be at home eating. What do you make of such a statement? And then, of course, he also said, whatever and whenever Mr. President brings the request for a presidential jet, it will be given an accelerated response by the National Assembly. All of these things were the background that led us to where we are today. It wasn't the state, it wasn't the local government. So in your opinion, do you think that the federal government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sensitive to the needs of Nigerians against the harsh economic realities on the ground in giving approvals to all of these humongous projects in the face of telling the average Nigerian to tighten their belts and bear with him when subsidy was removed?
Okay, thank you. I'm still going to locate these issues within the purview of all tiers of government and all critical stakeholders, especially those who are elected. For instance, I'm very sure no one at the studio now can tell us how much it costs to buy the vehicles for the Edo State House of Assembly members. And it's probably so across the entire 36 states. Some of these things are just cloaked in secrecy. You know, maybe the federal government is the one that speaks out and put theirs out there for people to talk about. You know, state governments are buying vehicles, of course, most times at an astronomical cost, and they are not making it known. Contracts are being done, and they are done in a way that is secretive. There's no public procurement acts are not followed, and there's no due process. Yes, what the Senate president said, if he did say so, because I haven't really heard him saying so, if he said so, it's unfortunate. And I just do hope that, because that obviously will offend the sensitivities of people to hear you say that, oh, we are very aggrieved, we are upset about the hardship in the country and we wish to vent, and you are saying you're going to be eating. I believe he eats regularly, whether there was protest or not, but he shouldn't have thrown that in their face. Okay, now you look at, when I keep saying we have to look at all aspects of governance and all of our elected officials. Now look at, I'll just take an example of the House of Representatives, right? According to the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, the National Assembly at this time, they are not supposed to get a car loan exceeding about 7.9 million, because this is calculated in relation to your annual salary. But what did they do? In clear violation of this Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, they went for SUVs that cost over 160 million. Ideally, this should have drawn the attention of EFCC immediately, because the revenue and this commission fix for elected officials monies they are supposed to spend on vehicles and all other allowances. So you cannot go outside of them and take for yourself. So does that also mean that the salaries that have been fixed for them by the commission is not being adhered to, or all other allowances are being violated? You know, so the youths who are protesting, for me, they need to articulate their points very clearly. They need to look at the Constitution of Nigeria. They need to look at the budgets of Nigeria and see, for instance, in the 36 states across Nigeria, the least any state governor is drawing for security votes is at least 300 million and above. So if we use a benchmark of 300 million, in a year, that's 130 billion across the country. And in a 4-year tenure, you are having about 520 billion, that's about $500 billion, being controlled by 36 citizens. These 36 citizens are spending this money without any form of appropriation. is just called security votes. That is one of the things the youth should be clamoring for. The protesters should be calling for the immediate stoppage, the abrogation, that it should be taken out of our law. It's an anomaly. It was imported by the military. Security vote is not used in any other part of the world. It's just a Nigerian contest that was used during the military regime and was put in the 1999 constitution. And since then, our lawmakers have refused to remove it from our our constitution. It should be removed. It's a drain pipe. It's a source of waste. Local governments, 774 across the country, are drawing security votes. How can you be drawing security votes when you have no direct control over the security agencies? So how do you spend the money? And now don't forget that security votes are written in checks directly to you in your name. And nobody can really ask you how you spend the security votes. You cannot treat citizens like that. That 36 individuals can spend over $500 billion in 4 years under the guise of security votes. Okay, now there are crises, there's protests all across the country. What are the governors doing with the security votes? Are they bringing food to restore food security?
I'll pause you there now, I'll pause you there now. Let me quickly have Chief Akwamoha look at these issues in terms of the quick wins on the part of government to bring this protest to a close. As we know, the longer it stays, the more the propensity for violence, the loss of other things, I mean, the impact on the economy will be felt the more. So let me quickly get that reaction from you, Chief Akwamoha.
You see, when people like myself come to the panel like this and we speak from a political expediencies perspective or using political jingoism to make it, to trivialize the current situation of Nigeria, we do even our own self a disservice. You see, the two gentlemen that spoke before me, with the way they sound, you can tell they're extremely honorable people and they're critical thinkers. But at this point, it's not about being intellectual, it's not about being critical minded, it's about humanity. Humanity is suffering. We can be a technocrat or we could be a human being. And sometimes the level of our intelligence might fool our emotion that we neglect the compassionate side of us, that we become so technical that the humanity is lost. What is happening in Nigeria is a self-made inflicted wound. It doesn't follow any economic cyclical perspective or a geopolitical perspective. This is a self-made wound. And it's also disingenuous to say the cost of petrol is cheaper in Nigeria than anywhere else. That is false. Because the cost of petrol in UK or in Russia, who America has put huge embargo on, is per the capital unit of the country. UK only have one place where there is oil, it's Scotland. You still buy petrol less than two pounds. Why in Nigeria you buy petrol for over 1,000 naira plus? So if you look at the unit, people in Nigeria are not spending pounds, they're spending naira. So you cannot be converting it to say, look at the amount it is in naira. We actually have crude oil. We have refinery that's not working. We have the one that's working, they refuse to supply oil to. So that's just not correct. The cost of petrol and energy in Nigeria is extremely too expensive, even far more so than Iraq that is not stable, far more so than Russia that's under embargo. So that's just disingenuous for us to compare apples to oranges and saying it's cheaper. Another thing that my honorable gentleman is...
Just a moment. Chief, I'll have to pause here because we're going for another long commercial break, but we'll reconvene by 12 midday, and I hope you'll be able to rejoin us. So at that time, we certainly would have gotten more feeds from our reporters and our crew members on the ground so we can embellish this conversation and take it further. But I want to thank you all for your time so far. Chief Daniel Akwamoha from the UK, Higareva from the US, thank you, and Austin Brimo from Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. We'll be back here with you by 12 midday so we can look at these issues. With all the stuff that are coming in, there will just be more grounds for us to have more conversations on this. Stay with us on ITV in continuation of our coverage of the hashtag End Bad Governance practice. We'll be back with you by 12 midday.